Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding a Mishnah Berurah Chelik Beis, and we will be learning today in Yirtzeh Hashem Daf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph. So we are continuing to learn Hilchas netillas yadayim. We're in Siman Kuf Nun Tes. We pick up on Nun Amud Beis, bottom line in the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Kuf Nun Tes Sif Ches. Fasten your seatbelts and get ready for another fascinating netillas yadayim share with a lot of complexities. So here we go. Says the Mechaber Sif Ches. Let's just, before we even start reading Sif Ches, let's just remember something that we discussed quite a bit yesterday, and that is that we're dealing here with two different possibilities how you could accomplish taharas yadayim. We have this problem that we start off with, which is that midrabanan are stam yadayim, our hands that we don't know to be clean, we haven't washed them, they're stam yadayim. Stam yadayim are shniyos. They are a sheni l'tumah. They're considered to have second degree tumah. We need to wash them because of Gzeret Rabbanan before we sit down to be kaveh suda al hapas. And we've seen there's two ways you could do this. There is netillas yadayim, that's washing our hands from a keli. We take a keli, and the simple way of understanding netillas yadayim, we fill up a keli and we pour water from a keli over our hands. And then we've seen also the concept, of tfilas yadayim. And that's when you try to accomplish taharas yadayim by immersing your hands in water. Similar to what we do when we go to the mikveh. We immerse our body in the water of a mikveh in order to become tahar. Now we have seen that in order to accomplish tfilas yadayim, you need water that would be kosher for a mikveh. You need water that would be kosher for tfilas kol haguf. So, for example, you cannot use mayim she'uvin, water that was put into a keli. Water that was drawn with a keli becomes mayim she'uvin. Mayim she'uvin is not kosher for a mikveh, and therefore mayim she'uvin is also not kosher for tfilas yadayim. Now here in Sif Ches, the Mechaber is going to present us with a very interesting case where we're going to kind of have to struggle. Are we trying to accomplish netillas yadayim, tfilas yadayim? Does it work? Does it not? Why yes? Why no? We're going to see two different pshatim in the first halacha that the Mechaber gives us. There's going to be the one pshat that the Chofetz Chaim brings down in the Mishnah Berurah. There's going to be a second understanding that the Chofetz Chaim brings down in the Bir Halacha, and the ramifications between the two. So let's see here, Sif Ches, bottom line, Nun Amud Beis. Says the Mechaber, Im hichnis yadav b'soich kli shel mayim. If you dunk your hands into a keli, Mechaber is calling this a keli. Let's remember that. So im hichnis yadav b'soich kli shel mayim. You dunk your hands into a keli full of water. V'shichshech yadai bahem. And you shake your hands around inside this keli. Okay, so you've got a keli that's full of water. You're not taking the keli and pouring the water on your hands. Instead, you're immersing your hands into the water in the keli, and you're shaking them around. Says the Mechaber, okay, whether or not this is going to work depends. Im hakli mechuber lekarka. If this keli, remember, so far the Mechaber has twice called it a keli. Im hakli mechuber lekarka. If this keli is attached to the ground, loy also loy netila. Then this cannot accomplish netillas yadayim. All right, so let's just get straight the case over here. Like I pointed out, the Mechaber twice says in the beginning of this sif that he's referring to a keli. So what this sounds like is, let's say we have some kind of a big barrel, and the barrel is full of water. Okay, now we've taken the barrel and we have attached the barrel to the ground. Now we want to go, guy's going ahead and taking his hands and he's immersing his hands into the water that's in the keli and he's shaking his hands around. In this case, says the Mechaber, loy also loy netila, this cannot work. Now, what is this fellow trying to accomplish? Is he trying to accomplish netillas yadayim? Now, netillas yadayim, normally, netillas yadayim is you have a keli full of water, and you pour from the keli onto your hand. Now, one reason for that is that we've learned over the last several days that one of the requirements of netillas yadayim is that you need koyach gavra. You need koyach hanoisein. You need that the water should come onto the hands through the koyach, through the action and the force of a person. That's one of the requirements for netillas yadayim. So you take a keli full of water and you pour onto the hands. That is koyach gavra. That's koyach hanoisein. We saw that if you have a channel that has flowing water in it, and you dunk your hands into the channel, it doesn't work for netillas yadayim because there's no koyach hanoisein. The water is flowing over your hands, but it's not flowing over your hands b'koyach hanoisein. It's flowing over your hands b'koyach gravity. And that's one of the reasons why, if you dunk your hand into a tzinar, it doesn't work because you don't have koyach hanoisein. Now, over here, certainly, when you dunk your hands into the barrel, you don't have koyach hanoisein. The water is not going over your hands because somebody poured it over your hands, because somebody did something to make it go over your hands. No, you're just immersing your hands in the water. So right away, that would seem to be one reason why this should not work. But what does that have to do with whether or not the keli is attached to the ground? The Mechaber says very clearly that this halacha is dependent upon the keli being attached to the ground. The Mechaber says if you dunked your hands into the keli full of water, if the keli is attached to the ground, then it doesn't work. Okay? How about if the keli is not attached to the ground? If the keli is not attached to the ground, it's mashma that it would work. Why? You don't have koyach hanoisein. So what we're going to see is, there is a manda amar that says that you don't need koyach gavra. There is a manda amar that we're going to see later on in the Siman, who holds that koyach hanoisein is not a requirement of the netillas yadayim. According to that manda amar, we could take the question of koyach hanoisein out of the equation. So now, if we're going according to the Mandi Amar, who says you do not need koyach hanoisein, so okay, you have a keli, right? Again, the Mechaber twice called this a keli. He said somebody dunked his water into a keli full of water. If the keli is attached to the ground, then lo yalsa lo netila. It doesn't work. So it sounds from the Mechaber like we're talking about a bona fide keli. So the Mishnah Berurah is going to say that pshat in this halacha is as follows. Somebody had a keli, a bona fide keli, that's 100% kosher for netillas yadayim. A barrel, you had a perfect barrel, and there's no issues with spigots, there's no issues with holes, nothing. It's a perfect keli. It's a keli that's perfectly kosher for netillas yadayim. Okay. And we're talking according to the Mandi Amar, that holds that you don't need koyach gavra. For netillas yadayim, you don't need koyach gavra. Okay, so person went, took his hands, stuck his hands down into the water of a keli. Okay, it's a keli. It's full of mayim. Doesn't matter that the mayim is mayim she'uvin. We're doing netillas yadayim, not tefillas yadayim. Doesn't matter that there's no koyach gavra. You don't need koyach gavra. So l'chayra, this should work. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. Why doesn't it work? Says the Mishnah Berurah, the reason it doesn't work is because the keli is now attached to the ground. So what? What's wrong with the keli attached to the ground? I'll prove to you that there's no problem with the keli attached to the ground because we had a halacha yesterday where we spoke about a wall that has a receptacle of water attached to the wall, and there's a barza, there's a faucet at the bottom of the receptacle. And we had a halacha, are you allowed to wash the netillas yadayim using that barza, using that faucet? Could you open up the spigot, let water come out, close it, open it, close it, open it, so you have koyach gavra? Could you do that? And we said it depends on the following question. Was it a keli before you attached it to the wall? If it was a keli before you attached it to the wall, then we saw yesterday in the Ramah, you're allowed to wash the netillas yadayim from this. Doesn't matter that it's attached to the wall. It was a keli before it was attached to the wall. Now when you attach it to the wall, it remains a keli. Okay, Over there, we were talking about the Mandi Amar who says you need koyach gavra. So, okay, so you open the spigot, that makes the water come out, that's koyach gavra. You close it, you open it again, you close it, you open it again. So you have koyach gavra, you have a keli. The Ramah said that's a perfectly good netillas yadayim. When can't you use the keli that's attached to the wall? That's if it was never a keli. If it was never a keli, pshat is that there was a stone jutting out of the wall. It was built into the wall. There was a stone jutting out of the wall. You took a chisel. You chiseled out a receptacle for water, and you attached a spigot. Then the Ramah says you can't do netillas yadayim. Why? Because it's not a keli. And for netillas yadayim, you need a keli. So now let's go back to our discussion over here in Sivches. Over here, the Mechaber says you have a keli. That means it always was a keli. You have a keli. You bolted it to the ground. You attached it to the ground. Does it become ice keli because you attached it to the ground? No. The same way yesterday the Ramah said, if you have a keli and you attach it to the wall, it doesn't become ice keli. So over here also, you have a barrel, you attach it to the ground, it doesn't become ice keli. So you have a keli. You have mayim. We're talking here, according to the Mandi Amar, that you don't need koyach gavra. So why doesn't this work? L'chayra, it should work. Says the Mishnah Berurah that the Mechaber is telling you a big chiddush. Says the Mishnah Berurah, and we can see in the Biur Halacha that this is based on the Oilas Tamid. The Oilas Tamid says this pshat, that the Mechaber is telling you a new halacha here. The Mechaber is telling you that even though this netillas yadayim should work, because you have a keli and koyach gavra you don't need, so really this netillas yadayim should work. You know why it doesn't work? The reason it doesn't work is because when you go over to a keli that's mechuber lekarka, it's attached to the ground, and you walk over to that keli and you dunk your hands in the keli, does it look like you're trying to do netillas yadayim? No. It doesn't look like you're trying to do netillas yadayim. It looks like you're trying to do tvilas yadayim. Now, could this work as tvilas yadayim? No. Because this barrel is a keli. And since it's a keli, the water inside it is mayim she'uvin. And mayim she'uvim cannot work for tvilas yadayim. So says the Mishnah Berurah, what's pshat in this halacha? Pshat in this halacha is, really, this should work as netillas yadayim. The reason it doesn't work as netillas yadayim is because of gzeira. Since it looks like you're trying to do tvilas yadayim, and in this scenario, tvilas yadayim wouldn't work because it's mayim she'uvin, therefore it doesn't work for the netilas yadayim either. That's how the Mishnah Berurah learns pshat in this first halacha here in Sivches. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah inside. So the first Mishnah Berurah is cut Nun Aleph, which is on the bottom of Nun Amud Beis. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Akdim Ktsas, I'm going to give you a short hakdama to this sif, Kedei sheyuvan divrei asif, so that you should properly understand the words of this sif. V'hu, and the hakdama is, Tehine roiv hapaiskim, the majority of paiskim, oisrin litpoil yadav bekli bimkaim netila. They aser dunking your hands into a keli in order to accomplish netillas yadayim. Roiv paiskim say you cannot accomplish netillas yadayim by dunking your hand in the keli. Why? Very simple, says the Chavetz Chaim. Mishum desvir lehu de be'inon benetila kayach gavra. Because these paiskim all hold that in order to accomplish the netillas yadayim, you need kayach gavra, you need kayach hanoisein, you need that the mayim should come over your hands from the actions of a person. V'hainu sheyavayu mayim al yadav, the water has to come onto his hands, mikayach adam, using the kayach of a person, sheshoifech aleim, who pours the water onto the hands. V'chana, like we've seen previously. So roiv paiskim hold that, forget it, you can't do netillas yadayim in a keli, by dunking your hands in a keli. Whether the keli is attached to the ground, whether the keli is not attached to the ground, it doesn't matter. You need kayach gavra, you don't have kayach gavra, you can't do this. That's the sheet of roiv paiskim. But, usvaras hamakilin bazeh, but the position of those that are mekel, who hold that you can accomplish netillas yadayim by dunking your hands into the water of a keli, is mishum desvira lahu, because they hold the loy boy kayach shayfech al yadav b'netillas yadayim. They hold that kayach gavra, kayach hanoisein is not a requirement by netillas yadayim. V'rak sheyital mikli. The only requirement is that you wash your hands from the waters of a keli. V'lachein, and therefore, tvila b'saychai, if you dunk your hands into the water of a keli, chashav lu kamay netila mimena, is just as good as a regular netillas yadayim, where you pour the water from the keli. According to these paiskim that say you don't need kayach gavra, you don't need kayach hanoisein. So according to them, there's no difference if you pour the water from the keli onto the hand, or you dunk the hand into the water of the keli. Either way, you could do netillas yadayim. So this is the hakdama that the Mishnah Berurah gives for this sif. He just wants you to understand right away that there is a machlokes amongst the paiskim whether or not you need kayach gavra, whether or not you need kayach hanoisein. According to the shita, which is, by the way we paskin, according to the shita that you need kayach gavra, that you need kayach hanoisein, so then this first halacha of the mechaber doesn't start. It doesn't matter if the keli is attached to the ground. It doesn't matter if the keli is not attached to the ground. If you try to accomplish netillas yadayim by dunking your hand in the water of a keli, you're off base. You don't get the first base. Why? Because you don't have kayach gavri. You don't have kayach hanoisein. Doesn't matter if it's attached to the ground, not attached to the ground. No. Aleph base you're missing. You don't have kayach gavri. You don't have kayach hanoisein. So you can't accomplish netillas yadayim that way. But there is a shita that holds that you don't need kayach gavra. You don't need kayach hanoisein. Oh, according to them, over here you have a shaila. You're trying to dunk your hand in the water of a keli, says the mechaber, even according to the shita that holds that you don't need kayach gavra, you don't need kayach hanoisein, you still have a shaila. It depends, is it attached to the ground or is it not attached to the ground? Why does that matter? So we go to Mishnah Berurah, is cutting nun beis. Says the Mishnah Berurah, loy also loy netila. The mechaber says if the keli is attached to the ground, then netillas yadayim doesn't work. Why? Hainu, af la'oisan desvira lahu. Even according to those paiskim that hold, the tvila b'kli kinetilahu, that dunking your hands into the water in a keli can accomplish netillas yadayim, because you don't need kayach gavra. Heicha shechiber akli lekarka gara. But if you attach the kli to the ground, that makes it worse, and now it will not work. Why? The nireh, because it looks like the bal lahachshem mitam tvila kamay mikveh. If you go and dunk your hands in the water of a keli that's attached to the ground, it looks like you're trying to do tvilas yadayim, not netillas yadayim. Oh, that's a problem. Utvila b'she'uvin leka. And over here, you can't accomplish tvilas yadayim in a barrel. Water in a barrel is ma'im she'uvin. Tvilas yadayim doesn't work in ma'im she'uvin. So that's why it doesn't work. So again, what is, according to the Mishnah Berurah, what is this first halacha of the mechaber here in Sif Ches? Somebody wants to dunk his hands in the water of a barrel. He's trying to accomplish netillas yadayim. The mechaber is going according to the paiskim that hold that you don't need kayach gavra and you don't need kayach hanoisein. So really, this should work. There's no reason why not. You have a keli, you have water in a keli. According to this opinion, there's no difference if you pour the water from the keli onto the hands or you stick the hands into the keli. So really, it should work. Why doesn't it work? Because since you're using a keli that's attached to the ground, if the keli is not attached to the ground, it works. No problem. But if the keli is attached to the ground, it looks like you're trying to do tvilas yadayim. You can't do tvilas yadayim like this because the mayim in the barrel is mayim she'uvin. So that wouldn't work. So we disallow netillas yadayim as well. So says the Mishnah Berurah. Now, if you see, look here at the end of Sif Ois Cotton Nun Beis, the Mishnah Berurah says, "Vayin b'bir halacha." Take a look at the bir halacha. So I'm not going to read the bir halacha inside. It's bir halacha dibra maschil im hakli mechuba lekarka. But in this bir halacha, the Chavetz Chaim brings down a different understanding, and this, he says, comes from the Levush and from the Gra. And over here, the Chavetz Chaim brings down like this. He says, the way we just learned Pshat in the Mishnah Berurah, so we said we're talking about a keli that was a keli. It's a barrel. It's a keli. You went ahead and you took it and you attached it to the ground. And we said, really, it should work. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. Why shouldn't it work? It should work. Why doesn't it work? Because of Gzeira. Because it looks like you're doing netillas yadayim. The Gra, the Lavush, they're like, where does this Gzeira come from? There's a new Gzeira over here that if it looks like you're doing netillas yadayim, we have to disallow netillas yadayim, even though really it would work. So the Lavush, the Gra, they say, no. If this keli was always a keli, if we're talking about a keli that was a keli before you attached it to the ground, we're talking about a barrel and you attached it to the ground, says the Gra, says the Lavush, in that case, this would work. Because there's no reason why not. Where did this new Gzeira come from? So if it always was a keli, then according to the Mandi Arma that you don't need koyach gavra, this would be a beautiful netillas yadayim. There's no problem. I don't care that you attached it to the ground. So the Lavush, the Gra, they say that's not what the Mechaber is talking about. The Mechaber is talking about a case where there was never a keli here. This is similar to what we learned yesterday. This is a case where you went over to something that was mechuber lakarka, and you fashioned it into a receptacle. In that case, says the Gra, says the Lavush, this receptacle never had a shame keli. If it's mechuber lakarka, it can't be a keli. A keli cannot be b'mechuber. Once something is mechuber, if it was a keli and then you attached it to the ground, it could still retain its status as a keli. But if it never was a keli, if you took something that's mechuber lakarka and you fashioned it into a keli while it's mechuber lakarka, then it never had a shame kli, and it's not a kli. So therefore, says the Gra, says the Lavush, what the Mechaber is saying is very, very simple. Normally, if you would dunk your hands into a keli, so according to the Mandi Arma that you don't need koyach gavra and you don't need koyach hanoisein, normally this would work. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. There's no Gzeira that says that it doesn't work. It does work. What's the Mechaber? The Mechaber is saying, if you're talking about a case where it never was a keli, you fashioned it into a keli while it was mechuber lakarka, and you went and you dunked your hands into it, then loy also loy netila. Then it can't be netillas yadayim. Why? Because netillas yadayim needs a keli, and this isn't a keli. Since it never was a keli, you can't make a keli something that's mechuber lakarka. A keli has to be tolush. A keli has to be detached from the ground. Again, if it originally was a keli and then you attached it to the ground, it retains the status of a keli. But if you take a rock that's attached to the ground and you take a chisel and you chisel out a receptacle, it's not a keli. It's mechuber lakarka, it's not a keli. So if you dunk your hands in it, could you accomplish netillas yadayim? No, because netillas yadayim needs a kli. So the Mechaber, says the Gra, says the Lavush, is very simple. If you dunk your hands into a keli of mayim, now he doesn't mean that it's called a keli lahalacha. He means a receptacle of water. You dunk your hands into a receptacle of water, and you shook your hands around in it. If this is a keli that you fashioned while it was mechuber lakarka, then it's not a keli. And then also loy netila. It doesn't work. Now, the problem is, okay, it doesn't work for netillas yadayim, but why doesn't it work for tfilas yadayim? If it's not a keli, then the mayim that's inside is not mayim she'uvin. So then why doesn't it work for tfilas yadayim? Says the Gra, says the Lavush, the Bir Halacha says over here, it must be that the Mechaber is talking about a case either where it's a keli that doesn't hold our boim sa. If it doesn't hold our boim sa, it's not kosher for tefillah. Or it's talking about a case where, yes, this isn't the keli, but how did the water get here? You filled up a bucket and you poured the water in. So then it became mayim she'uvin while it was in the bucket, and it's still mayim she'uvin when you pour it into this keli. So here we have two very different ways of learning pshat in this Mechaber. I hope that was clear. Now let's go weiter. Okay. So now let's go weiter here in the Mechaber, near the end of the top line. So the Mechaber said, if this keli is attached to the ground, then it doesn't work, and we have these two pshatim why. But v'im eino mechuber lekarka. Okay, but now let's say it's not mechuber lekarka. Let's say we have a barrel, and it's not mechuber lekarka, and you dunked your hands into the water of the barrel. Could you accomplish netillas yadayim that way? So says the Mechaber, im einay mechuber lekarka, if you're talking about a keli that's not attached to the ground, then it's a machlokes. Yesh oimrim she'alsa lo netila. There are those that say that you can accomplish netillas yadayim. This is the Bahag, the Baal Halachas Gedolos. What does he hold? He holds you don't need koyach gavra. So you don't need koyach gavra, you don't need koyach hanoisein, you have a keli, it's not attached to the ground, so according to the pshat of the Mishnah Berurah, you don't have gzeira, because it's not attached to the ground, it doesn't look like tefillas yadayim. According to the Biur Halacha, okay, it's not attached to the ground, so it's a keli, it's a perfectly good keli, and according to the Bahag, you don't need koyach gavra, so it works for the netillas yadayim. So yesh oimrim she'alsa lo netila, but then we have the Tur, the Agos Maimonides, the Smak, as well as others who say that no, this can't work. Why can't it work? Very simple, because you don't have koyach gavra, you don't have koyach hanoisein. Says the Mishnah Berurah Cotton Nun Gimel, Yesh Oimrim She'alsa. Why? V'loi be'inon ma'im ala kashir revius. First of all, since it works for the netillas yadayim, all you need is a revius. You don't need arba'im sa. You only need a revius. Because for the netillas yadayim, you only need a revius. The kinetila mamish chashuv l'didu. According to the Bahag, even though you're not pouring the water from the keli, you're dunking your hands in the keli, this is netillas yadayim. It's not tefillas yadayim. It's netillas yadayim. Because you don't need koyach gavra, you don't need koyach hanoisein. And therefore you only need a revius. For the netillas yadayim, you only need a revius. The koyach shoifech, and as far as the requirement of koyach hanoisein, svir lehu deloi be'inan min netillas yadayim. This shita holds that you don't need koyach gavra for the netillas yadayim. However, there are others that hold that you can't do this because you need koyach hanoisein. And according to them, this wouldn't work even if the keli could hold 40 sa. It doesn't work because for the netillas yadayim you need koyach hanoisein. That the water bedafka has to be poured onto the hands, not that the hands are dunked in. Another reason why they hold that you bedafka need the water to be poured from a keli as opposed to dunking the hands in is because we compare netillas yadayim al pas to the kayin doing netillas yadayim from the kiyar before he does the avodah the Beis Hamikdash. The kaimala the pasal lit bala yadayim b'seich hakiyar, we paskin that a kayin is not allowed to dunk his hands into the water of the kiyar. He has to wash with a keli from the water from the kiyar. Kedisa b'zvachim chaf aleph amid aleph. Okay, says the Mechaber weiter, second line down near the end of the line. Ubishasat chak, says the Mechaber, under pressing circumstances, yachal lismay chal divrei amatirim, we could rely on the mekilim over here, who hold that you don't need koyach gavra, and therefore, so long as the keli is not attached to the ground, you could accomplish the netillas yadayim by dunking your hands into the keli. So that's the way the Mechaber paskins. The Mechaber paskins that in shasat chak, you could accomplish the netillas yadayim by dunking your hands into the water of a keli, as long as you have at least a revius in the keli, and as long as the keli is not attached to the ground. And if then you have the opportunity to get a proper washing cup with the proper amount of water, etc., and now you could wash a proper netillas yadayim, noitel b'loi bracha, you should take a wash, but you shouldn't make a bracha, because it could be that you were already yotzei netillas yadayim with the dunking. Now let's see the Mishnah Berurah here. He's cutting on hay. The Mishnah Berurah says, "B'shasat chak kegoyin." For example, she'ein loy kli acheres. You don't have another keli. Ukli zu en yakol taltala. And this keli, you can't move. So imagine a scenario like this. You're out in a park somewhere or whatever it is, and you've got your tuna fish sandwich, and you want to wash. You don't have a cup to wash with. But you're walking by, and there's a big barrel, and the barrel is full of water. The barrel is full of beautiful, clean water over here. But it's a 50-gallon drum. You can't pick up the 50-gallon drum and wash the netillas yadayim. But it's not attached to the ground. It's sitting on a concrete pad. So you've got a 50-gallon drum full of water. It's sitting on a concrete pad. You don't have a cup to wash the netillas yadayim with. Okay, it's a shasat chak. B'shasat chak, says the mechaber, you could dunk your hands into the water in the 50-gallon drum, and you'll accomplish the netillas yadayim that way, according to the shita that you don't need kayach gavra and you don't need kayach hanoisein. And since it's not bolted to the ground, you don't have either the Mishnah Berurah's problem of a gzeira, that it looks like you're trying to accomplish tefillas yadayim in mayim she'uven, since this is not attached to the ground. You don't have that problem. You also don't have the bir halachas problem. Since we're talking about a keli that is a keli, right? We're not talking about something that you fashioned into a keli while it was attached to the ground. We're talking about a 50-gallon drum. A 50-gallon drum is a bona fide keli. Since it's a keli, so it's kosher for the netillas yadayim. But this is only good in a shasat chak. Why? Because we paskin that you need kayach gavra, you need kayach hanoisein. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, though, in Ois Katan and Vav, while the mechaber paskins that you could rely on this b'shasat chak, the Taz hevi b'shem Rashal, the Taz brings down from the Yam Shel Shloimeh, the Cholik al zeh, that he argues on the mechaber. The Daitai, and his opinion is, the Gam b'shasat chak ein l'smoich al zeh, that you can't rely on this even b'shasat chak. The Chol ha-Paiskim cholkim al zeh, because all of the Paiskim disagree with this opinion, and they hold that you need kayach gavra. V'chein mashma me'agra. V'nira, and it would seem, says the Mishnah Berurah, da'afilu mi sheyirtza lismach b'shasat chak lahakol k'divrei HaShulchan Aruch. Even if somebody is going to follow the mechaber, and he's going to rely on this Shulchan Aruch b'shasat chak, mikamakam lo yavarach on the netillazu, certainly he shouldn't make a bracha on this type of netillas yadayim. Umatzasi shagam agraz v'chai odam iskimu kain. The graz, the chai odam also agree with this approach. Oid kasvu diyoichalaz ayidei sheyichvach yad v'mapa. So what should this person do who's in the park with his tuna fish sandwich without a keli? He should wrap up his hands in something, put his hands in a bag or something, and he should eat with his hands covered. Ois katan nun zayin. If somebody does wash in this way, by dunking his hands in the water of a keli b'shasat chak, and then has the opportunity to do a proper washing with a keli. So then we said noitel b'loy bracha, he should wash without a bracha. Ois katan nun zayin, the shema halacha ka mekilin, because the halacha might follow the mekilin who say that you could wash this way. Ukvar yotza yidei mashe shishech yodei mehem l'shem netila, and therefore it could be that he was already yotza by the fact that he dunked his hands in the water. So now when he does a proper netillas yadayim, he should not make a bracha, because possibly it's chas v'chalila, a bracha levatala. Now, what's very interesting to me is that the Mishnah Berurah does not address at all the fact that the mechaber says here, im hichnis yadav b'soich kli shal mayim v'shichshech yadai bahem. Now, v'shichshech yadai bahem means that he dunked his hands into the water, and he shook his hands. So he dunked his hands into the water, and he didn't just go in and out. He dunked his hands into the water, and he swirled his hands around in the water. Why does the mechaber say this? Why does the mechaber say shichshech? Now, I believe this is based on a Gemara in Chulin, which I neglected to look up just to make sure, so I'll look it up quickly now. Gemara in Chulin on Kovzayin Amid Aleph that uses Azal Loshen. 1 second. Should be Kovzayin. Bear with me 1 second here. All right, I'm not seeing it right now. All right, so the question is, again, why does it say shich? So there is a ritva in Chulin that says that you need shikshuch, because even though we're saying that this halacha, that you could accomplish the netillas yadayim by dunking your hands in the water of a keli, because this goes according to the shita that holds that you don't need koach gavra, which is the bahag. The bahag holds that you don't need koach gavra. It could be, the ritva says, that the bahag doesn't say that you don't need koach gavra at all. The bahag wants that you should at least have that you dunk your hands in the water and then you stir your hands around so that the water is going around your hands mikoach gavra. Since you're swirling your hands around, the water is going around your hands. You're agitating the water, and the water's flowing around your hands mikoach gavra. That's the only explanation that I've found. You know, this is a little bit beyond the scope of this year, but in doing my research in preparation, that was the only explanation that I found quickly why the Mechaber says over here, shich, that you shook your hands around. Okay, now let's move along to Sif Tes. So we're 4 lines down in the Shulchan Aruch here, Nun Aleph Amud Aleph, says the Mechaber. Chavis, a barrel, sheyesh b'mayim, that has water in it. So the Mechaber seems to be addressing a case over here where you're all alone somewhere and you have either a small barrel or a small type of jug that has water in it, but it's too, somehow you cannot handle it. Maybe it's too big and too awkward, and you cannot handle it with one hand to pour the water on the other hand, and then transfer it to the other hand or the other arm and use it to pour water on the other hand. Could be that it's just too awkward to carry, it's too big and bulky to be able to manipulate in that way. And you're all alone. So you don't have somebody else who could take the barrel with his 2 hands and pour it on your hands. So what do? Says the Mechaber, Chavish sheyesh b'mayim, you have this kind of big jug that has water in it. Menicha al birkav, says the Mechaber, put it on your knees, put it in your lap. V'noitel mimeno liyadayim, and then wash from it netillas yadayim. It's a little bit, it's not very spelled out over here what the Mechaber means. So let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah's Kat Nun Ches. Menicha al birkav, put the jug on your knees. V'hainu, says the Chavetz Chaim, what's going on over here? This person is trying to wash both of his hands at the same time. And he doesn't have somebody else who could pick up the jug and do it for him. So what the Mishnah Berurah seems to be saying is, I said that the keli is maybe too bulky and he can't manipulate it with one hand or one arm. What the Mishnah Berurah seems to be saying is that pshat is maybe he really could, but what he wants to accomplish is he wants to wash the netillas yadayim on both of his hands at the same time. Now, why would he want to do that? Well, I'll give you a reason. We know that the keli has to be able to hold a revius, but that revius is enough to wash both hands. You don't need a revius for each hand, me'ikar adin. So let's say you have this chavis and it only has a revius of mayim. If you're going to use one hand and you're going to wash the netillas yadayim, you're going to be out of water. So what I want to do is I want to wash both hands at once with the revius that's in the jug. But how do I wash 2 hands at the same time if I don't have anybody else to help me? So the Mechaber explains, put it on your knees and manipulate it with your knees. Says the Mishnah Berurah weiter, he should put the chavis on his knees and he should wash from it. What does that mean? Explains the Mishnah Berurah, uminanea bebirkov he should shake around with his knees, kol pam, each time he wants to pour the water, sheyetzu amayim, so that the water should go out. He brings this down for the Magen Avram. Now, what the Magen Avram is trying to accomplish over here is very simple. The Rama wants koach gavra, and he wants koach gavra for each pour. He doesn't want that you should kind of like tilt the jug over with your knees, and now it's pouring. He wants that for each pour on your hands, you should have koach gavra. So he says that what the Mechaber means, when the Mechaber says, v'noitel mimena, he says, put the chavis on your knees, v'noitel mimena, he means manipulate the jug with your knees each time you want to pour mayim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, this is only necessary l'chatchila. Because the truth is that even if you didn't manipulate it each pour, it would be kosher l'kuli alma. Everybody would agree that b'diavad it's kosher. No, I'm sorry. This is what you should do l'chatchila. Why? Because in this case, where you manipulate the jug each time you want to pour with your knees, kosher l'kuli alma. That would be kosher according to everybody. Because that means that each pour is coming mikoach gavra. Because for each pour, you're manipulating the bucket with your knees. Miu. However, says the Mishnah Berurah, even if you only succeed in kind of tipping the bucket over with your knees one time, and now the water is steadily coming out, that would also be kosher, really, b'diavad. According to what we're going to see tomorrow in the Mechaber in Sif Yud. Now let's go further here in the Mechaber in Sif Tes. Now, 4 lines down near the end of the line, says the Mechaber, let's say the barrel of water was laying on its side on the ground. So you want to wash for your tuna fish sandwich, and then you notice that there's a barrel that's tipped over, and water is flowing out of it. So what do? You go like this. So if the barrel is laying on its side, there's water flowing out of it. Or maybe the barrel is standing up. And there's water coming out of a hole near the bottom of the barrel. And you just stick your hands into the flow. That doesn't work. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Cotton Samach, Muta Ba'aretz. The first case that the Mechaber gave was the barrel is lying on its side and water is flowing out. Hainu Shaloi al Yidei Adam. It's not laying on its side because a person put it on its side. It's laying on its side because it fell over. Because if what happened is that a person went and tipped the barrel over on its side, and that's why the water is flowing out, then makshar ha-mechaber l'kamei b'sif yud, then according to the mechaber later on in sif yud, this would be kosher, the choshev koach gavra, because that would be considered koach gavra. So again, the mechaber gave us a halacha here. He said, you chance upon a chavis of mayim, and you want to wash from the chavis of mayim, all right, you need koach gavra. How do you get koach gavra? Put the chavis on your lap, manipulate it with your knees, and get the water to pour on your hands. And the Mishnah Berurah brought down from the Magen Avram that really you should manipulate it with your knees each time you want to pour, so that each pour should be b'koach gavra. Then the Mishnah Berurah said that's only l'chatchil. B'diavad, even if just the first pour is b'koach gavra, b'diavad, that would be good. Now the Mechaber comes with another case. What if the barrel is laying on its side? The barrel is laying on its side, the water is flowing out, and you just go and you stick your hands into the flow of the water. The Mechaber said that doesn't work. Says the Mishnah Berurah, what the Mechaber means is that the barrel fell over by itself, and that's why the water is flowing out. But if a person tipped the barrel over, then the water is flowing out mikoach gavra. And then according to the Mechaber in Sif Yud, that would be kosher, because that would constitute koach gavra. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah weiter, ois katan samach aleph. The second case that the Mechaber gave was not that the barrel is tipped over, the barrel is standing up, but it has a hole in it, and water is flowing out of the hole. You stick your your hands into the water that's flowing out of the hole, it doesn't work. Again, why not? Because there's no koyach gavra. Says the Mishnah Berurah, what's pshat in this hole? What's going on with this hole? If there's a hole in the keli near the bottom, then it's a broken keli. Remember, we went through at the beginning of this Siman. Could the barrel hold a revius of mayim under the hole or not? It could be, even if it could hold a revius of mayim under the hole, it's still considered a shever keli if it's a kli cheres. So what's going on over here with this hole? Says the Mishnah Berurah, this hole is not stam a hole. Shenasa b'shvil barza. This is a hole that's not broken. This is a hole because there was supposed to be a spigot in there. The nafal barza, and the spigot fell out. V'hamayim yotzin me'atzban, and now the water is flowing out, but it's not a broken keli. Ois katan samach beis loy also, but still netillas yadayim doesn't work. Ditzar sheyavoyu al yad b'koyach ezen oisein, because you need koyach hagavra, v'loy sheyavoyu me'alein. Now, finally, says the Mechaber, 2 lines from the bottom, V'im hoisa barza. Let's say this barrel has a spigot. It has a faucet near the bottom. Pirish, Darish Hasaisam Anekev, Svita Balaz. If you have a faucet that you could open and close, a spigot that you could turn on and you could turn off, V'im hoisa barza banekev, insert it into the hole. Ve'hisira. So a nekev, the bars over here sounds more like a stopper. If there's a stopper, they sira, and you take the stopper out, the kibel amayim al yadav, and you get the water on your hand, chashiv shaper koyach gavra. That's called koyach gavra, because the water is flowing onto your hand because you opened the faucet, or because you took out the stopper. So that's called koyach gavra. But, says the Mechaber, v'tzarech lachzira v'lahasira b'chol shvicha u'shvicha. But it's not enough to just take the barza out and now stick one hand under, stick the other hand under. It's not enough. You have to take the stopper out, let the water come onto your hand, put the stopper back. Take the stopper out a second time, let the water go on your hand, put the stopper back. Put your other hand under it. Take the stopper out, let the water come on. So each time you need koyach gavra. Now, what does this mean each time? Says the Mishnah Berurah like this. First, ois katan samach gimel. If you're using a barza, if you're using a faucet or a stopper, choshev shaper koyach gavra. That's called koyach gavra. Kevin dal yadei asarasa b'kalkan hamayim. Because what's making the water flow out is your removal of the stopper. So that's called koyach gavra. So if the barrel has a stopper or has a faucet, there is a way that you could wash the netillas yadayim for the faucet. You open the faucet, that's koyach gavra. That allows the water to come out on your hands. But, said the Mechaber, each time you have to open it, and close it. What does that mean each time? Now, it's very tempting to learn this, that what each time means is that to do the netillas yadayim properly, you need 4 pores. You need mayim rishonim, mayim shneim. Mayim rishonim, mayim shneim. So it's very tempting to learn that what it means is each pore. Mayim rishonim, shut. Mayim shneim, shut. Mayim rishonim, shut. Mayim shneim, shut. That's not pshat. That's not pshat. Because the reason why you need to open, close, is to retain koyach gavra. If you just open and you let the water flow out incessantly, so let's say you do like this. Let's say you go ahead. Let's say this is a really, not just a faucet. This is like a big water tank. And you open the faucet. And then you walk away. A half hour later, somebody comes over and he wants to put his hands under the flow of water to accomplish the netillas yadayim. And he's going to say, what's the problem? I have a keli and somebody turned this on, so it's koyach gavra. So I have a keli, I have koyach gavra, what's the problem? No, that's not called koyach gavra. Because only the first flow of water, only the kiluach rishon, the first flow, that's called koyach gavra. Now, what does this mean, first flow? So I'll give you the simple way to understand it. In other cases, I'm not sure what we're going to do with this, but I'll tell you the simple way to understand this. We know that when water comes out of a keli, that water has to be displaced by air. Otherwise, the water can't come out. It's going to create a vacuum. As the water goes out, you're creating open space. If there's a vacuum and air can't get into that open space, then the water can't flow out. So if you don't have a valve that lets water go in, right, and the only opening that there is in this keli is the faucet, then what has to happen is water has to come out, and then it has to let air go in. So what you get is glug, 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 glug. You get spurts of water. You don't get a steady flow of water. Says the Mechaber, if you're trying to use koyach gavra of opening a faucet, closing a faucet, or taking out a stopper, only the first glug is considered koyach gavra. After that, it's no longer called koyach gavra. Now it's just flowing out because there's an opening in the barrel and gravity makes the water flow out. The first glug of water, the first spurt of water, that's koyach gavra. That came out because I pulled out the stopper. I got a glug of water. After that is no longer called koyach gavra. So when the Mechaber says over here that you have to open, close, open, close, open, close, he means with each glug, with each spurt of water, after the first spurt, you have to close the faucet. And then open it again and get another spurt. And then close it. Then open it again and get another spurt. Now, in a scenario where there's a valve that lets in air, so you have a steady stream of water, I don't know what's called koyach rishon and what's called koyach sheni. I don't know. We have to look into that a little bit more. But in any case, let's see the Mishnah Berurah inside. Is cut and sound. Daled b'chol shvicha u'shvicha. Pirish, what this means is b'chol kiluach v'kiluach. With each flow, which I'm calling each glug. Because it's only the first spurt of water that's called koyach gavra. The kasach write him right. The noital ayidei klisha masukin ayidei barzel shekarin tarnagol emashekarin kroin. If you wash using a keli that has a faucet, it's a fancy faucet that was shaped like a bird. That's why he says they call it a tarnagol. Emashekarin kroin. It sounds like it was shaped like a crown. Tzarich liskar v'liftayach kama pa'amim l'chal yad v'yad. You're going to have to open, shut, open, shut, open, shut many times for each hand. To dak, because the opening that's made by this kind of faucet only allows a thin stream of water out. You don't have enough water in the first glug to wash for netillas yadayim, to wash your hand. So you're going to have to open, let the first glug come out, close, open, let a second glug come out, close, open, let a third glug come out, close, until you have enough water to wash your whole hand properly. Okay, very good. We're going to stop over here. I'm going to say next time. We'll continue with Sif Yud. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discussing limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shem should send Yeshua's for first parnasit sheduchim to all those in need, and we should be zeicher to see the B'yis Tzedek b'meherav yameinu. Amen. Be well.